So let's first start with the good ones. This is just the warm-up, right? Fantastic product line, but I think the best part, and we just saw the reviews of almost all these products, is that each of them is from a diverse category. Now, we've seen your revenue, your earnings for this quarter have been very, very well. So let's just go back and roll back maybe 2 or 3 years and say, you took a risk, a huge risk, moving away from being just a PC maker and going into tablets and smartphones. Now, many other PC makers have not even done it till today. How did this happen, and why do you think you've been successful and others haven't?
I think the real reason for that is our diversity in terms of how we focus as our leadership team on our decisions. You look at our leadership executive committee, we represent 5 or 6 countries, not a homogeneous point of view, a very different point of view. We live in those different countries, and we come together. And so that gives us an appreciation that there are different ways of looking at the market than necessarily what a given home market is seeing or doing. The other, honestly, is, I think it's a company that's really driven and really focused on that market. And when we saw that market, we saw these trends were coming. And if we didn't address them early enough to do something about them, we were going to have trouble.
But having said that, most of your success for non-PC category devices has only been in China till now.
Correct.
So while you're saying that it's a huge number of people in different countries who are kind of putting in their inputs, but your output and sale is pretty much in China. You think this success can be replicated?
I think that's part of our formula. If you look at China, China is, in any category, the largest market, or soon will be the largest market. Mm-hmm. It's also where we have the most share. We have over 36% share in the PC market there. Mm-hmm. It's a great place for us to try things. Okay. We have the brand awareness. We have the channels to the customer set. We have the customers who respect us and know us and understand us. It's a great place for us to learn the market and to build up scale so that when we come to other countries, like in India, where we're launching our smartphones now, we already have a business that we can back on and rely on to help support that and grow that.
First of all, the reality is that Lenovo is a global company, truly global in everything we do, and how we develop the products and how we market the products, how we sell them. The fact that our origin is and our heritage is from China is actually a benefit from a practical standpoint. It means that we understand a very fast-moving, emerging market. We know how to do distribution very well. We're very effective in terms of supply chain. So we do like to play both of those. Mm-hmm. I don't see that we have a significant issue from a perception standpoint that we're constrained by our Chinese heritage. In many respects, it's quite the opposite. I think we try and position ourselves, and I think we are largely seen for what we are, a very global company, including in India. In India, Lenovo has built a very local presence that is very tied to the things that we do here, the marketing that we do here, some of the manufacturing we do here, the distribution we have here. On the other hand, we have the benefit, the scale, the strength of a global company, and in that sense, being very strong in China, which is the single largest PC market in the world, the single largest smartphone market in the world, gives us a real strength to bring to the market. So, we see it as more of an advantage than a constraint.
Now, let's talk about what I find the most interesting thing. Last quarter, you sold about 9.5 million phones from the Lenovo brand, right? A very small percentage of that was outside China. The rest of that was within China. Now, once I understand that equation in terms of numbers, do you think you can replicate the same success outside China? Will they have the same acceptance? Because remember, the smartphone market is one of the most aggressive markets based on perception and brand. Can this be replicated?
We believe so. We only just started launching those phones in the last quarter. We launched them in October. Mm-hmm. And in 5 countries. So, the fact that we sold that number, we think is actually pretty impressive. I'm pretty pleased with that. But over time, we expect that number to grow quite significantly in those countries, and we will launch in more countries as well, using that model. And why do we have confidence in that model? That's the model that's worked so well for us in our other markets, in our other product lines, using the base that we have, building on that, and then pulling the rest of the product lines through. And so we have high confidence that we will make it work.
In fact, that's one of the reasons now we're coming into India, because when we look at the development of that market, we felt that for smartphones we really had to have a great end-to-end user experience. So it's not just the actual hardware, the device, we needed those as well, but it's also having the proper connections with the developers, with the partners, having the right support, having the right distribution for the phones, having the connections with the carriers, with the other ways of getting the phones to market. So in China, and of course having the brand, as you said, you have to have a strong consumer brand that is pulling people to you. We had all of that in place in China, so it was a great place to launch the phones. We have been extraordinarily successful in China, reaching a number 2 position. Now we're looking very selectively outside of China at which markets have the right combination of ingredients that should make us successful in the future. And India happens to be one of those countries, tremendously strong smartphone market. Lenovo now has built a very good and a very sustainable consumer brand position in India. We have strong distribution. So we're in a good position to start to replicate that success.
Okay, now let's call a spade, because at the end of the day, obviously Lenovo and all the aggression we've seen, some of the risks you've taken, which have panned out well for you, means that Lenovo has great aspirations to be the biggest in everything that you're doing. But whenever we talk to anybody about Lenovo, the products, Lenovo, the company, and the fact that, we predict it will be the world #1 PC maker and maybe in some other categories too, the first thing that people say, it's a company from China. And thus, that perception carries on that it's only a Chinese brand. How far can it go? How do you handle this perception problem?
This is something that we've been looking at very, very specifically. First of all, Lenovo, in reality, is a very global company. The way the company was structured, the way we actually run the business is as a very, very global presence. In fact, we have this concept of this global local, where there's a global position of Lenovo, but then we make sure that within each of our key markets, we have a local presence that is very, very relevant. And we certainly have done that in India, and I believe you've been part of our marketing, our branding, as we sort of make ourselves relevant in each of the markets. So in that sense, we haven't seen a negative pushback in terms of trying to impose anything from China outside of that. But we've seen the benefit, though, of the flexibility and the speed of a company coming from an emerging market that understands emerging markets, understands how to address cycles very quickly, understands how to address a broader market. And so that has actually been an advantage for us. So I think so far we've actually been successful in getting the benefit of being a global company coming from an emerging market that really puts us in a better position to address other emerging markets as well as the global market overall.
Yeah, I think it's a huge advantage for us. I mean, in terms of not just the aspects that David talked to, but just the fact that people, I think, do sometimes underestimate us. And I love that. That's really easy for us then to surprise them. Okay. But the way we operate, I think, I've come and worked for international companies, and the way we operate is on scale at par with any of those companies.
Okay, now one of the important things is that even if we put aside, the fact that this is a successful company, the last quarter speaks for itself, your tablet and smartphones put together have contributed to it, and it's a great successful category, but you're still predominantly a PC maker, right? And with the slowdown in the PC shipments out, with the overall global slowdown in just computing products in itself, is that something that's going to come back and hit you maybe in the next 2 or 3 quarters? Because it is eventually hitting almost every PC maker. You've kind of shielded yourself with some smart moves, but do you see this momentum carrying forward?
Well, for us, we've continued to grow very well in the PC space, and we've grown at fairly significant premiums to the market. Is the PC market slower than it was a few years ago? Absolutely. Which means, we reflect that, but we've continued to grow significantly in the market, and we continue to grow faster. We do that by providing products we think are solving problems. So if you look at our yoga products as a great example, right? Here's a product that is trying to address people who are, I'm notebook-centric, but I'd like to have a tablet capability some of the time. So do I have to buy 2 products, or can I do that with 1, right? So it's an innovative product, and if you look at that product share in its category, it's extremely high, because it's solving a problem for people. So I think when we focus on solving those kinds of problems, we can continue to grow well. If we focus on just providing generic products in the category, then probably not.
Obviously, you've set your sight on being number one in many categories. I've pointed out one or two of the problems by playing devil's advocate and saying you may have a perception problem, you may have a slowdown in the next few. Now I'd like to know from each of you, what's the biggest barrier you feel internally within Lenovo exists right now that you have to, move forward and above? That barrier needs to be broken for you to be what you need to be in the next few years. I'd like to start with you.
Sure. I'll start with it's a culture. Right, so the challenge in any company that's becoming number one, it's a very different proposition to stay number one, right? Because you're chasing and suddenly you're leading. So the challenge, I think one of our biggest challenges is how do we instill in ourselves as leaders, in our teams, in our customers, in our partners, that sense of keeping hungry, keeping pushing, keeping driving. That's, I think, one of our big challenges going forward.
I think that's absolutely a key one. Another thing that we have to become more focused on, and the whole industry and Lenovo as a company, is we're now looking at technology users that really are looking for a great overall end-to-end experience. It's not just the hardware, it's not just the software, it's that whole experience of how you get information on the company, how you share that information with others, how you actually buy the product, how you use it, how you interact with it every day, how it gets supported over time. And I think as a company taking more of a role in terms of how we define that full end-to-end experience and making that a positive one, making that a great one, that's what's going to make us successful over time.
Two more questions. The first one being, would you like to use this as a platform to announce a new category which you're rumored to be getting into, which you'd like to say, yes, you are, or I'll leave it to you to say, yes, you've got into tablets, you've got into smartphones, you're already in every department of the PC making. Any other new category coming from Lenovo? It's a great place to announce it.
Sure. Well, I mean, certainly one area that we're also emphasizing, we haven't talked about it yet, is we also, in addition to our thrusts in PCs and mobile internet devices like smartphones and tablets, we also have been growing our presence quite a bit in the server space. And so that's a technology we haven't brought to India in a big way yet, as we're getting ready to do that. We've announced some critical partnerships with some key industry players like EMC. And you'll see a lot more from us in that space over time.
What about Lenovo televisions? We had heard about the fact that that may be another key focus area. Is that going to happen?
Well, we sell televisions today in China, and
I'm talking about globally.
And as that model becomes successful, you've seen our
so the timing for that
trajectory
hasn't happened yet, right?
Correct.
So you're saying that may take a little while.
That could take a while.
Okay. And the last part, of course, is all these rumors that are floating around of some incredible acquisitions that may come up. IBM was one of the ones that I think really was the tipping point for Lenovo to really surge ahead. Anything else that we could hear about from any of the rumors? You'd like to bury some of them or fuel some of them? Either ways is good.
Well, let me answer it this way, right? So the reality is we are very strategically driven, and we have used acquisitions, starting with the original big one when we bought the IBM PC business. We've used acquisitions as very strategic elements of our play. And when the right potential shows up, I think we've shown the ability to act on that, and you should expect that from us in the future.
So therefore, we're not saying that the two rumors that I heard of today morning, that you're a key player in trying to buy out Dell, or even BlackBerry, is something you'd like to answer about.
Obviously I can't talk to those things.
See, like I said, you can't blame me for trying, right? But we can. Anyway, gentlemen, great to have you here. I hope you enjoy your trip to India, especially to the restaurants that we spoke about, and all the food that you haven't tried as yet. I assure you will not get a Delhi belly, or at least don't blame me for it if you do get it. But thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being on the show.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for Retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.